If you think compliments are just about saying you look nice or you're beautiful, you're missing the point. Women don't just fall for words, they fall for how those words make them feel. The right compliment doesn't just flatter her, it disarms her, intrigues her, and makes her feel seen in ways most men never even try. So let's talk about compliments that actually work. Compliments that go beyond the surface, the ones that hit her heart, not just her ears. These are the compliments that create emotional connection, build attraction, and yes, make her fall for you. Start by telling her, "I admire the way your mind works." That's not something she hears every day. When you show interest in her thought process, not just her looks, you make her feel like a whole person, not a pretty accessory. You're saying, "I see your intelligence, your perspective, and it matters to me." That makes her feel valuable and valued. Another compliment that goes straight to the soul, "You make me feel calm." Most women are so busy holding everything together that when a man tells her she is the safe place, the peace in the storm, it's unforgettable. You're not just appreciating her, you're showing emotional vulnerability. That's real. That's magnetic. Now, if she's driven, ambitious, or working hard towards something, tell her, "I love how passionate you are about your goals." Don't just say she's hardworking. Point out the fire in her, the ambition, the way her eyes light up when she talks about what she loves. That compliment shows you're not intimidated by her strength. You're drawn to it. Want to get even deeper? Look her in the eye and say, "You have this way of making people feel special." It tells her she has a rare energy, a presence that impacts those around her. It's not about her appearance or even her success. It's about who she is when she walks into a room. That sticks. Because very few people take the time to notice, let alone say it out loud. And while everyone compliments a woman's body, very few notice the subtle, powerful compliment of, "I love your energy." It's vague enough to be mysterious, but personal enough to feel meaningful. Her energy is something only you experience from her. It's your perspective, your chemistry with her. That makes it irresistible. Another underrated compliment is, "You inspire me to be better." That one hits different. It's not putting her on a pedestal, but it is saying that being around her calls something out of you. A higher standard, a sharper focus, a deeper ambition. Every woman wants to know she makes a positive impact, especially on someone she's considering letting into her world. And don't forget to get playful and specific. The way you do that little smirk when you're trying to be right, it's ridiculously cute. That's not just flirty, it's intimate. It shows you're paying attention to the micro details most men overlook. It creates inside jokes, shared moments, emotional glue. That's where the connection lives. Lastly, one of the most powerful compliments a man can give is also the simplest. "I feel lucky to know you." You're not putting pressure on her. You're not even trying to impress her. You're just being real, grateful, present. And women fall for men who know how to see them, not just want them. If you use these compliments from a place of sincerity, not manipulation, you won't have to chase love. You'll attract it naturally. Because when a woman feels deeply seen, she doesn't just hear your words, she feels your soul. And that's what makes her fall every single time. When it comes to making a woman fall for you, the most powerful weapon in your arsenal isn't money, muscles, or even your looks. It's how you make her feel about herself when she's around you. And one of the most overlooked and deeply effective ways to do that is by complimenting her mind and personality instead of only focusing on her physical appearance. Compliments like, "I admire the way your mind works" might seem simple, but they hit differently because they speak to a place most women are starving to be seen. Think about this. Women constantly receive comments about their beauty. Every post, every interaction, every glance out in public, it often revolves around how they look. While that kind of attention can be flattering at first, it becomes predictable. And when something becomes predictable, it loses its power. But when a man comes along and notices who she is, not just what she looks like, he instantly stands out from the crowd. That man becomes memorable. That man becomes intriguing. When you say something like, "I admire the way your mind works," what you're really saying is, "I see you, I hear you, I respect the way you think." That's intimate. It's flattering on a deeper level. It validates her intelligence, her thought process, and her individuality. She's not just a pretty face in your eyes. She's a fascinating human being. And the truth is, most women are longing for that kind of validation. They want to be loved for more than just the way they look when they dress up. They want to be admired for the way they process the world, the way they connect ideas, the way they hold a conversation. When you recognize that, it creates emotional safety. And emotional safety builds attraction that lasts. But let's go even deeper. When you compliment a woman's mind, it triggers a different part of her emotional response. Physical compliments might generate a spark of dopamine or a blush, but intellectual and personality-based compliments trigger curiosity and connection. She starts wondering, what else does he notice about me? What else does he value in people? Is he different from the others? And suddenly, she's no longer thinking about how she looks. She's thinking about you. You've shifted her focus by seeing her in a way she doesn't often get to experience. Now here's the key. The compliment must be specific and sincere. A vague "you're smart" won't move her. But when you say something like, "I love how you connected those two completely different ideas in that conversation," it shows how creative your mind is. You're giving her something to hold on to. You're showing her you paid attention. And trust me, very few people do that. Complimenting her appearance takes 2 seconds and no effort, but complimenting her thoughts, that requires presence, that requires interest. And women are unbelievably drawn to a man who is present and interested in more than just her physical features. This also builds a much deeper level of trust. When a woman feels that she can be appreciated for her ideas, her sense of humor, her vision, or her problem-solving ability, she starts to feel like she can show more of herself without fear of judgment. She begins to relax around you. She starts dropping the armor. And when the walls start to come down, connection can start to rise. That's where real emotional intimacy begins. And here's a bonus truth. When you compliment her mind, she begins to see you differently too. You're no longer the typical guy who knows how to say the right things just to get her attention. You're someone who listens. You're someone who thinks. You're someone who actually notices the things that matter most to her. That's rare, and rarity is attractive. You become the man she talks about to her friends, the one who gets it, the one who made her feel more than just admired, understood. And don't make the mistake of thinking that this kind of compliment only applies to intellectual women. Every woman, no matter her profession or personality type, wants to feel like her inner world is interesting. Whether she's a business executive, an artist, a student, or a stay-at-home mom, she wants to be appreciated for the way she sees things, how she solves problems, how she thinks and feels and creates meaning in her world. When you give her that kind of compliment, you are telling her you are worth understanding. That's the kind of attention she won't forget. So don't be the guy who only says what's obvious. Be the man who takes the time to look beneath the surface. Because when you tell a woman that you admire her mind, you're not just giving her a compliment, you're giving her the gift of recognition. And in a world where most people only see the surface, recognition is the most powerful form of attraction. One of the most overlooked ways to emotionally connect with a woman and build real, lasting attraction is by acknowledging her impact and energy. Not in a vague, surface-level way, but in a deeply personal and intentional manner that makes her feel truly seen. Most men focus on giving compliments that reflect back to them, her beauty, her style, how she makes him feel physically. But the compliments that make a woman fall are the ones that show you're aware of how she affects the world around her. When you say to a woman, "You have this way of making people feel special," you're giving her one of the most profound acknowledgments a human being can receive. You're not just saying she's nice or kind, you're reflecting her essence. You're telling her that she has a presence, a warmth, a kind of magic that changes the energy in the room. That kind of recognition goes straight to her heart. It tells her that her impact matters, that she brings value just by being herself, not because of what she does, but because of who she is. And that's incredibly powerful. Because most women, especially the ones who are strong, independent, and constantly giving, rarely stop to think about how they're received emotionally. They're too busy being responsible, being helpful, being competent. And while they might hear you're amazing in passing, they almost never hear someone tell them, with sincerity, that their energy is uplifting, calming, or inspiring. When you become that rare person who sees it and says it, she takes notice. You're no longer just someone in her space. You become someone who reflects her value back to her in ways she's never considered. There's also something deeply intimate about complimenting a woman's energy. When you say, "I love your energy," you're not just talking about her behavior. You're acknowledging the invisible, the emotional, the intangible essence she brings. It's the vibe you get when she walks into a room, the calm in her voice when she speaks, the lightness she carries when she laughs. It's her emotional fingerprint, and telling her you're drawn to it lets her know that you feel her, not just see her. This kind of compliment breaks through defenses. It's not about looks. It's not even about achievements. It's about her soul. And when you speak to someone's soul, it builds a connection that goes far beyond flirtation. It becomes emotional intimacy. She starts to feel that you're someone who doesn't just take from her energy but honors it. What makes this even more effective is how rare it is. Everyone notices external things. Few people take the time to notice internal things. Her grace under pressure, the way she brings people together, the way she always seems to say the right thing to make someone feel better. When you call attention to those things, you stand out, not because you're trying to impress her, but because you're actually aware. And awareness is attractive. Awareness communicates emotional intelligence, depth, and presence. 3 things most women are desperately craving in a partner. You see, compliments like "you look great" or "you're hot" can get attention. But compliments like "you have a calming energy" or "you have a way of making everything feel lighter when you're around" go deeper. They reach into her experience of being herself and say, what you bring into the world matters. And when a woman feels like she matters, when she feels truly appreciated, it's almost impossible not to open up to the person who gave her that feeling. Another layer to this is emotional safety. When you show that you notice her positive energy or emotional impact, she starts to feel safe around you. She no longer needs to perform, impress, or prove herself. She knows that you value her just as she is, and from that place, a woman will let down her guard. She'll become more open, more affectionate, more vulnerable. That's when real relationships are born, not from charm, but from recognition. And let's not forget the ripple effect this kind of compliment creates. When you validate a woman's energy and emotional impact, you're not just making her feel good in the moment. You're reinforcing her inner confidence. She begins to believe more in her own worth, her influence, her light. She begins to walk taller, speak bolder, and love more freely. And all of that energy will come right back to you because women are naturally responsive. They mirror what they feel. And if they feel appreciated, seen, and honored by you, they'll reflect that back in love, trust, and emotional generosity. So many men wonder why women lose interest after a while. Often, it's because the compliments stay shallow, the conversations stay surface level, and the connection never deepens. But when you learn to notice a woman's emotional energy, and you give her the kind of compliments that affirm her deeper essence, she won't just hear your words. She'll feel them. And that feeling becomes addictive. That feeling becomes trust. That feeling becomes attraction. You don't have to be perfect, rich, or charming to win a woman's heart. You just have to be the man who truly sees her. Not just how she looks, but who she is. Because when a woman realizes that her presence, not just her appearance, has a powerful effect on you, that's when she starts falling. Not for your compliments, but for you. When a man looks at a woman and says, "You inspire me to be better," he's doing something incredibly rare. He's allowing her to see the positive impact she has on his life, without ego, without games, and without fear of vulnerability. This kind of compliment goes far beyond typical praise. It tells a woman, you don't just attract me, you elevate me. And when you make a woman feel like she brings out the best in you, she starts to see you as someone worth investing in emotionally. Most people walk through life unsure of their effect on others. They wonder if they matter, if they're helping or hurting, if their presence actually shifts anything in the world. And women, especially those who pour so much of themselves into others, often go unrecognized for the light they carry. So when you stop and say, "You inspire me," it becomes more than just a compliment. It becomes a mirror showing her something powerful about herself she may have overlooked. You are saying, "I am different because of you. I am growing, changing, evolving, and your influence is a part of that." That is deep. That is sacred. That makes her feel significant in your story. This kind of compliment doesn't just build attraction, it builds respect. And respect is a cornerstone of any healthy connection. When you let her know that her drive, her vision, her way of thinking, or her values push you to aim higher, you're acknowledging that she is a force in your life. You're not just looking at her beauty, her charm, or her body, you're looking at her impact. And when a woman knows she can influence your inner world, she feels trusted. She feels valuable. And she becomes emotionally invested in you, not because you flattered her, but because you elevated her role in your life. There's also something incredibly mature and masculine about admitting that a woman inspires you. It shows emotional security. It tells her you're not afraid to grow, to admit you're a work in progress, and to acknowledge the people who help you along the way. That humility is attractive. That honesty is refreshing. In a world where so many men mask their insecurities with pride or indifference, being open about how a woman positively influences you is like a breath of fresh air. It tells her, "I'm strong enough to grow, and smart enough to recognize those who help me do it." But this compliment only works when it's sincere and specific. Don't just say, "You inspire me to be better" as a vague statement. Say it in a way that connects directly to her essence. Maybe you've seen her work ethic and it's challenged you to stop procrastinating. Maybe her emotional intelligence has helped you communicate more clearly. Maybe her creativity reminded you of dreams you buried years ago. Whatever it is, speak it. Let her know why she inspires you. The more specific you are, the more meaningful it becomes. And here's what makes this kind of compliment so powerful. It flips the script. Most people are used to being inspired by public figures, authors, or celebrities. But when you tell a woman that she inspires you, not because of fame or status, but because of who she is in her everyday life, it makes her feel extraordinary. It says, you don't need a stage to be powerful. You already are. That kind of recognition goes straight to the heart. It plants seeds of emotional trust and admiration that grow quickly because they're rooted in authenticity. This also sets the tone for the kind of relationship you're building. You're not here to play games. You're not here just for fun. You're here to grow, to build, to evolve, and you're showing her that she fits into that vision. That kind of energy attracts women who are emotionally mature, women who are also on a growth journey. It filters out the superficial connections and invites something deeper, something transformational. Because when two people inspire each other to grow, that's where real love lives. And let's not forget how this makes you feel. When you start noticing how a woman inspires you, it forces you to look at your own life. It pushes you to be intentional, to act with purpose, to rise to a better version of yourself. That growth benefits you with or without her. The compliment is just the spark, but the transformation it ignites is yours to carry forward. That's the beauty of this kind of compliment. It doesn't just make her feel good, it makes you better. And that energy, that upward, growth-oriented energy, it's magnetic. So many men chase women by pretending to be strong, pretending to have it all figured out. But the man who says, I don't have it all together, but something about you makes me want to level up, is the man who feels real. He feels trustworthy. He feels emotionally grounded. That's the man who earns not just attention, but loyalty. Because he's not just admiring her, he's evolving with her. And that, more than anything, is what makes a woman fall. Not the charm, not the lines, not the act, but the honest, brave, and simple truth. You inspire me to be better. When it comes to making a woman feel deeply connected to you, one of the most underrated things you can do is notice the little things, noticing what others miss. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You see, most people are so distracted, so focused on themselves, or so conditioned to notice only the obvious that they overlook the subtle expressions, gestures, and habits that make a woman uniquely herself. But when you become the man who sees her in those small, almost invisible moments, you tap into a level of intimacy most never reach. Let's say you look at her and say, that little smirk you do when you're trying to be right, it's ridiculously cute. In that moment, you're not just complimenting her. You're telling her that you're paying attention. You're not like everyone else who only sees her when she's all dressed up or when she's trying to impress. You're noticing her in her natural state when she thinks no one's watching. And that's where the real magic lies. Women are emotional beings, yes, but they are also deeply intuitive. They know when someone is watching them for the wrong reasons. They can feel when a compliment is generic, copied, or casually thrown out. That's why noticing specific things about her, the way she laughs, the way she tucks her hair behind her ear when she's nervous, the way she raises her eyebrow when she's skeptical, creates such a powerful emotional response. It shows that you're not only seeing her, but you're interested in the real her. And that kind of attention is rare. That kind of attention is unforgettable. These specific, playful compliments don't just make her smile. They build something deeper, familiarity. And with familiarity comes comfort. She starts to feel like she can be herself around you. She starts to let her guard down. Not because you asked her to, but because you've shown her that you love the parts of her she usually hides. That creates trust. And once a woman trusts you enough to be herself, you've already won her heart. Most men only comment on things that are obvious, her dress, her hair, her body. But you're looking closer. You're seeing her in motion, in stillness, in awkwardness, in playfulness. You're paying attention to how she expresses herself, not just how she looks. And when you comment on those details, it makes her feel known. It makes her feel seen in the most beautiful way. It's the emotional equivalent of undressing someone, but without touching them. Here's what most men don't understand. Women want to be chosen for their essence, not their image. They want to know that even when they're tired, messy, or vulnerable, they are still captivating. So when you say, I love how your voice softens when you talk about something that matters to you, or the way your eyes light up when you laugh, I can't get enough of it. You're showing her that her presence, not her performance, is what draws you in. And that is the most powerful compliment of all. It's not about being poetic or smooth. It's about being present. It's about being aware. When you notice the way she fidgets with her rings when she's nervous, or the way her tone changes when she's excited, you're stepping into a space very few people ever bother to enter, her emotional world. And when she sees that you care enough to step into that world and observe what others miss, she begins to feel safe. She begins to feel special. She begins to fall. This also creates a secret world between you and her, an emotional language that only the two of you speak. When you tease her about that ridiculously cute smirk, it becomes an inside joke, a shared moment, a thread of emotional intimacy that no one else is a part of. Over time, these little observations turn into memories. They turn into connections. They turn into love stories. Think about how many people she interacts with every day. How many people say, "You're beautiful," or "You look nice." Now think about how few of them ever say, "You have this funny habit of tilting your head when you're about to say something smart." I love that. That compliment, that moment, that sticks. Because it tells her you've been watching, you've been listening, and you care enough to remember. It's not about flattery. It's about depth. It's about making her feel like she matters. Not just in a grand romantic way, but in the small, ordinary moments where love is truly built. When she realizes you notice her, when she isn't trying to be noticed, that's when she starts to fall. Not for the way you look, not for your job, your status, or your confidence, but for your attention, your focus, your ability to see her in ways no one else does. So never underestimate the power of noticing. Complimenting her mind might win her respect. Complimenting her impact might win her admiration. But complimenting the tiny, quirky, everyday things that make her her, that wins her heart. Every single time, Dot, when it comes down to it, making a woman fall for you isn't about having the smoothest lines or the flashiest looks. It's about seeing her. The right compliments are not about flattery, but connection. When you admire her mind, you make her feel intellectually valued. When you acknowledge her energy and emotional impact, you affirm her essence. When you tell her she inspires you, you build trust, respect, and vulnerability. And when you notice the little things no one else does, you create intimacy, real, lasting intimacy that leaves a mark on her heart. Women don't fall for compliments that sound good. They fall for the ones that feel true, the ones that echo in their mind long after the moment has passed. So if you want to stand out, to be unforgettable, to build something real, speak to the soul, not just the surface. Because when you genuinely recognize her for who she is, not just how she looks, you don't just win her attention, you win her heart.